Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Pointy Not Sharp. Today we're taking a look at the Belgian model of 1924 Mauser export bayonet. Now these were made to fit the model of 1924 and the model of 1930 Mauser short rifles made by FN in Belgium. And they were produced from 1924 all the way through until 1964, so a fair while. And at the time, Belgium was a bit of a powerhouse for weapons manufacture. They were supplying, half of the freaking world. So these bayonets and the rifles that went with them, they went absolutely everywhere. And figuring out where a specific bayonet like this one actually was sold to and actually saw service it can be quite difficult because a lot of them don't have a lot of markings on them. But I had a bit of a read, and from what I could tell, Belgium produced the rifles for 33 different countries, and they came with two different styles of bayonets. So what we have here and a slightly shorter version. But just a couple of countries that I've jotted down just to get a rough idea of who they were supplied to. We've got like Argentina, Brazil, China, Colombia, Dutch East Indies, Iran, Israel, Mexico, Peru, Venezuela, Yugoslavia, Yemen. These bayonets and rifles literally went everywhere, and that's only a couple out of the 33 I found, and there's probably a lot more on top of that as well, not to mention countries that on-sold these, so these went absolutely everywhere. As I said, they're made in two lengths, so we have the long version here, which is a 384mm blade, but they also come in a slightly shorter 300mm blade. Generally, the shorter version wasn't as popular because being attached to a short rifle, generally countries opted to have the longer bayonet. And the actual finish of the blade itself changed throughout production as well. So prior to World War II, which is what we have here, the bayonets came in the white, with the blade in the white, and scabbards were blued, as well as pommel and crossguard. However, during and post World War II, there was a bit more catering to customers, and the blades could be produced in a number of different ways, or finished in a number of different ways. They could have a blued blade, a phosphate blade, a painted blade. There were a number of different options. What's actually pretty interesting about this one, I've done a previous video on the lengths of bayonets, which is worth having a look at, but this was actually the last of the long bayonets. So there was only a crossover of short and long bayonets for about 65 years, I think it was, from 84 to 49. And after 1949, when these were issued to Venezuela, this style of bayonet, that was really the last of the long bayonets. So interesting that this is the last of the long ones that was ever produced. I might jump into the construction very quickly. So if you're familiar with Mauser style of bayonets, this won't be much of a surprise to you. We've got a very Mauser style of blade. A bit more of a pointed tip than you find a lot of the Mausers. They're not usually that pointed. Nice circular fuller. Unsharpened blade. Really nice point. Slight false edge but not sharpened. And then nice thick spine for strength. Very, very successful blade profile. Like, I've got that many different Mauser bayonets. I'm definitely a fan. But anyway, I'll crack on. Got a simple crossguard, nothing too special there. Just muzzle ring, nice and small. Wooden grips with inspection slot attached by screws. Now, the reverse of the screws don't have screw heads, so I don't know how you get those out. I certainly won't be able to. Then standard push button. And standard Mauser style mortise with the circular hole down the bottom for the cleaning rod, if that will focus. So obviously when you slide your bayonet onto a Mauser, it has a cleaning rod just underneath the bayonet lug, and there's a hole at the bottom of the mortise that actually comes into the handle, and the cleaning rod will actually insert into the bayonet. These do come off, but this one's pretty tight. And you've got a standard spring inside, nothing too special there. I'll put that down. And taking a look at the scabbard, just a standard style Mauser scabbard very Belgian frog stud here, no markings on it. The mouth's retained by a screw, and little ball finale with a little drainage hole down the bottom, just here. Other than that, they're pretty simple. Now, in terms of markings, these were produced completely unmarked, and when they were issued to rifles, from what I can tell, this is an assumption, because every single one I could find that's been issued has a very, very faint serial number on the back of the pommel here. See if we can get that in the light for you. And I'll see if I can get that to focus for you. There we go. Now, from what I can tell, it doesn't seem to matter what country they were issued to. The serial numbers seem to be in the same place, and they seem to be very, very faint and hard to read. And that's the same for both the short and the long bayonets. Now, I haven't found any literature explaining exactly how they were serialized, if they were serialized when they were issued to a rifle to match the rifle, or just serialized as a bayonet when they were issued, I don't know. But I'm making the assumption they were serialized when they were issued to a rifle, just because it doesn't seem to matter too much which country they were issued to. They have that same style of serial number. But other than that, no proof marks, no inspection marks, no manufacturing marks. You will find that some countries did mark them individually. So an example of that is Israel put a little marking here on the side of the pommel, and a number of other countries did something very, very similar. And there were a couple of copies of this bayonet as well, like the Peruvian model of 1935, very similar with a couple of slight differences. But just based on how many different countries these were issued to, there would be that many out there with interesting markings on them. Considering they were issued to 33 different countries, it's probably beyond the scope of this video going through each individual country that they were issued to and each marking associated with them. If you want a good reference, if you have one of these with markings on it that you can't recognize, there's a couple of great books out there. Oh god, none spring to mind. I'll put them down in the description below. But I also use the website World of Bayonets pretty heavily, so if you got an inkling what country it's come from, and you can find his reference photos in there, they're usually pretty good. Other than that, I don't have a terrible lot to say about these. Like the handle, the wooden grips, and the pommel, it's identical to most of the other Mauser bayonets, like the FN49 and I think it's the model 1916. They all have that same handle and pommel and crossguard, just the blade's a bit different. But if you know anything more, if I made any mistakes, comment below. I'd love to hear from you, and thanks for watching.